So the first one is from Zemaron, who says, "Why does the transphobic movement seem to be so much stronger in the UK than in the US?" I thought this would be a question. It's a difficult one. Um, I I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think that they're just different. Like the US does have the very, like, I mean, you've got the Republican Party and you've got like, you know, the like evangelical right and stuff, are very strong, very powerful, very rich international forces against LGBT in general. But I think they're generally more focused on everything as a whole. Like they're very focused on abortion, gay rights, and trans people all at once. And trans people are just a small part of this. Whereas I think in the UK, we don't have that huge anti-gay, anti-woman thing. We do, but not quite as powerful and as big. So that means that lots of the sort of bigotry is then able to be focused more on trans people. I think that's one of the factors anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that like, and we've had, I think, significant anti-trans pushes recently in state legislatures,
Yes.
especially
This
like
week, actually, there's been a lot.
During the Trump administration. There, was like the trans military ban, and it's not like we don't have anti-trans action in the US, but it is distinctive in that there's this UK movement that is so singularly focused on this, and it like because of that has, I think, it's like a pretty complex ideology at this point. They have like pretty sophisticated like framings that they push, and it's developed, right? And I think that is a reflection of like the single-mindedness.
Yeah, I think one extra thing that I think is very worth pointing out is that the UK media is much smaller than the US because there's less people, and it's so insular. Like so many of the people who work for one newspaper used to work for another one. They all know each other. They all went to the same schools, and the UK media has pretty much universally decided it's anti-trans. And that even our most left-wing papers will at best put out 50-50 transphobic and non-transphobic articles, and at worst they'll put out completely fabricated anti-trans articles, and that isn't an exaggeration, completely fabricated anti-trans articles literally weekly or bi-weekly even. And whereas the US, you have some media organizations which aren't anti-trans, and it's really weird. I've said this before a few times, but I went on NBC and discussed J.K. Rowling, and then I watched the program back, and the whole way I was waiting for them to do their both sides thing, and they just didn't. They talked to 4 trans people about J.K. Rowling, then they had a cis lady like talk about feminism, and then that was the end. And like in the UK, they would have had one quote from a gay man who not a trans person, cis gay man, and then they would have had 3 quotes from Transgender Trend and LGBT Alliance stuff, and then like something about how J.K. Rowling's beloved by children, and that would have been the article. And it's so weird seeing it like balanced. But anyway, on to the next question.
Can I say one more thing on that?
Yes, go for it. Sorry.
I think that like I think it's part of just kind of the global rise in reactionary movements. So I think what needs to be explained here and what's different here is that you have this British movement that's like singularly focused on this one issue, and also it's like seemingly kind of like demographically different than who tends to comprise these movements. Like in general, like in the U.S., we have this like raging anti-immigrant movement that was like, not really connected to anything real happening on like it's. It rose at a time when like, immigration was lower than it had been like 10 years before. And so you have all of these kind of movements, and I think part of it is like partially just like chance and like what happens to get off the ground to different places. So I think that we could have had a movement that was like much more focused on like opposing trans rights in the US instead of.
But you're all dealing with Hillary Clinton's underground pizza blood donation vampire situation instead.